There was a good friend of mine named Kenneth. He and I did shows together in the late 80s. He was an immensely talented actor and musician. He even got a recurring role on Doogie Howser, M.D. He was also a very sexual individual. His music, acting, and sex were his quests in life. While we never got involved sexually, I was naive and scared to death of him at the time. We were close friends. We lost touch after those shows. I was working various jobs, doing shows with Not Led Productions, and trying to get my schooling together. He moved to California to work and live with the band Maserati, did TV and films, then joined the Navy. More men. At first I missed Ken tremendously, but in time he became a memory always in my heart. From time to time I'd fantasize about he and I being lovers and vowed that if we ever met again, we'd throw caution and everything else to the wind and get naked and wild and wet together. Well, as it turns out, we all live in a small world. There I was working an office job at the college I go to, and I came across his name, address, and phone number. We were going to the same school. Excitement filled my heart, and suddenly Kenneth became the forefront of most of my thoughts and emotions. First, I pulled up his computer file. He wasn't in any classes that particular semester, but excelled tremendously the prior semester in computer science. Then I pulled his hard file to see his photo. He looked so different, so handsome, so manly. That's when I learned he was in the Navy. For days I held on to his address and number. Finally I called him. Oh, the number was changed to a non-published one. Damn. Well, I decided to write a letter. It was brief. I just told him what I was doing and what I'd like to do. I sealed it, mailed it, and prayed. After a few days, I tried to put him out of my mind. I figured it had been so long. He probably thought I was nuts. Then, a week later, the phone rang. It was a cool, cloudy, lazy Saturday afternoon, and I was home, alone. I answered the phone. It was a voice deep and sensual, almost alluring. The voice asked for me, and I responded. He proceeded to ask me about Kenneth. A jealous lover, I thought. Oh, how cute. But much to my dismay, a lover Ted was not. He was Kenneth's caretaker. Huh? Stunned, I found out Kenneth was a dying man. Sweet as Jesus. Not Kenneth. Not Ken. I had plans. Well, Ted offered to take me to see Kenneth. He said all of his friends and even his own mother had deserted him. Only his younger brother came to see him, but couldn't stand the sight of him. I took his offer. On the way to the hospital, he kept telling me to be warned of what I'll see. I couldn't imagine. I'm like, what's the big issue? To my misfortune, I soon found out. I could not believe my eyes. I could not bear what had happened. AIDS had ravaged him beyond recognition. He looked like the covers were enveloping him. His eyes were so big, larger than him, it seemed. His face sunken in. He looked sullen. He looked old. He looked like a dead man breathing. Sick. 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 He was the epitome of sick. I sat there. Ted left me alone with him in the room. At first I said nothing. I watched him, watching TV. Then he turned to me and said, "Can you stand it? If not, you can leave. I won't stop you. Everyone else has walked out that door." I concurred and proceeded to tell him about my shows, our shows, his music, school life, sex, my crush on him. I talked to him about everything except AIDS, death, and sickness. Those were obvious and impending. Why ponder on it? What would the point be? He told me about the Navy, when he was raped, his TV shows. He looted in the 1992 Los Angeles riot, got a week's worth of groceries. He was proud of that. He didn't care about the laws he so followed all the time then. He figured a great injustice had been done and he wanted his piece of the pie. It made sense when he put it like that. His last movie was to be in the carnival scene in Poetic Justice. He was so proud he got casted, but he was too sick to do it. After an hour and a half, he couldn't eat. He was irritated and missed the bed. He was like an 80-year-old baby man. Unbelievable. unbelievable. As I kissed his hand and looked into those humongous eyes of despair and exhaustion, I thought, a body is just a body, alone from our Creator. 2 days later, I went to my doctor for my yearly physical and got tested for HIV. I always get tested at my annual checkup and encourage my friends to do the same. But this time it was different. I've known HIV-positive people. I've known of people who have died from AIDS. The HIV-positive people are still alive, healthy-looking, but this time it was personal. 10 days later, on October 14th, 1994, Kenneth died. Ted called and told me. Silence. A hush came over me. I thought of nothing else. When I got my negative results that following Monday, I cried tears of relief. Sure, Ken was promiscuous. He'd be the first to admit it. But only because he was abused and lonely. Hey, I was angry. Not at Kenneth, but at God. So much hurt in his life. Misery. What a way to die. Ravaged. Skin and bones. All because he made unwise decisions? Not to hurt anyone, but to not be lonely, to be loved. I prayed to the very God I was angry with. I argued with God. I said, hey, I've been there, Lord. You know, I have had my share of dates, men, sex. I have even paid for it. I've done it on the railroad tracks, in the bed, in the alley, in the car, even in a church. What about me? Is this going to be my way out of this fucked up world you created? To wither down to nothing? A mere reflection of oneself? Ken's clock just had to stop now. He was only 25 years old. 25! Pissing and shitting all over himself, dying and lonely all alone. Ted wanted me to go to the funeral, but I couldn't. Ted said, you're not the first one to walk out that door. But that's not the way it was going down. It was too much. It was like I went from an overjoyed high to an ultimate low. Little did I know, the 1 year to the day after Kenneth died, my father would die. And my whole insanely naive life as I knew it would change forever.